70% of the Earth's surface is below the ocean, yet 95% of it remains unexplored. Although it's said that we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the ocean, scientists have been able to map the entire ocean floor. But the resolution is incredibly poor, so we can only visualize features larger than 3 miles. So what else? You're about to see some astounding instances out there, somewhere. We're only scratching the surface, so to speak. 15 most shocking moments caught in the middle of the ocean. Luxury sports car fire. Thousands of Porsches, Audis, and Lamborghinis were marooned on an unmanned burning cargo ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean recently. Crew members of the 650-foot-long Facility Ace were evacuated from the transport ship to a hotel in the Azores Islands as the ship was adrift 100 miles away from the Portuguese archipelago. The ship had been en route to Rhode Island from Germany. There were 3,965 Volkswagen AG vehicles on board, including 1,100 Porsches. Volkswagen's parent company manufactures its Volkswagen brand, as well as Porsche, Audi, and Lamborghini models, all of which were on board too. Our immediate thoughts are of relief that the 22 crew of the merchant ship Felicity Ace are safe and well, a spokesperson for Porsche said. Anyone concerned by this incident and the implications on the car they've ordered should contact their Porsche dealer. An official statement read, "No kidding. The giant cargo ship had $334.5 million in burning cars on board," a consulting firm estimated in a report. The salvage cost alone is estimated to be $150 million, bringing the total loss for the ship to $500 million. That's a lot of burning rubber. Fasten your seatbelts, because it's time for today's sweet topic. What they discovered in the middle of the ocean has left people speechless. A secret military base built into this cliffside. But what you might not believe is that places like this, usually top secret, exist around the world. With today's technology, how are governments keeping military bases secure? Our ability to see the shape and layout of military facilities in faraway places inspires fantastical ideas. More than ever, stories are swapped around the world, strengthening myths and tall tales. Speculations about the advanced technology that exists within deep underground military bases easily fuel internet conspiracy forums. Take the Island of Shame, for example. The American military base on the island of Diego Garcia is one of the most strategically important and secretive U.S. military installations outside the United States. Located near the remote center of the Indian Ocean and accessible only by military transport, the little-known base has been instrumental in American military operations from the Cold War to the War on Terror, and may house a top-secret CIA prison where terror suspects are interrogated and tortured. Could this be that secret place? What do you think? Comment below using hashtag #SweetTopic. Zombie-proof lighthouse. The internet has been marveling at what's been dubbed a paradise for an introvert. Located 6 miles from shore, it's one of the most isolated lighthouses in the world. Icelandic name translates to 3 rocks, as it's perched atop the highest of 3 steep islands with the cold Atlantic Ocean thrashing around below on all sides. The lighthouse, built in 1939, can be found west of the Westman Islands, off the coast of southern Iceland. The remote lighthouse was built right before the dawn of World War II, and building it was no easy task, as helicopters had yet to take to the skies when the work began in 1938. Builders scaled the cliffs to reach the pillar's pinnacle, laying out the groundwork by hand. They faced slick rocks, rain, and fervent winds, knowing that one slip could send them plunging into the frigid North Atlantic Ocean that thrashed and splashed below. Now, thanks to advances in aviation, maintenance workers take a helicopter to their far-flung beacon. Visiting the lighthouse is a daunting endeavor. One wrong step and you just might find yourself going for an unplanned swim with the killer whales that sometimes lurk within the waves. But don't worry, there definitely won't be any zombies. Disappearing island. 40 years ago, this was home to a thriving fishing community. Children from the village across the bay used to sail over and spend happy weeks camping. Today, all the remains of this once verdant rainforest island, its coconut palms, and its wooden homes in the wreck of a sea oak jutting 8 feet out of the sea. The Solomon Islands is a nation of hundreds of islands in the South Pacific. Scientists describe the Solomons as a sea level rise hotspot. Levels are being forced up by melting polar ice caps and glaciers, plus the expansion of water because of warmer temperatures. And this was among the first 5 islands confirmed to have been lost to rising sea levels. The drowning islands of the Solomons are a warning of what lies in store for coastal communities and island dwellers around the world. Climate change is also destroying the mangroves, the delicate ecosystems they support, and the biodiversity that flourishes there. Where villagers grew crops on Kale Island, planted coconut trees, and built homes on stilts, there are now just rocks on the white sandy seabed. A whole way of life has been wiped off the face of the earth. For many Solomon Islanders, relocating is not as simple as just getting up and leaving. Blind surfer. Derek Rebello, who was named after the first Hawaiian world surfing champion Derek Ho, was born blind. The condition meant that the dreams of his surfing-mad father were put on hold, despite always wanting to experience the thrill of the sport. However, this Brazilian hasn't let any physical limitations hold him back, eventually exceeding his dad's dream to surf the world's biggest breaks. Rebello was raised by the beach in the Brazilian town of Guarapari, nurtured by caring family and friends. As Rebello says, "The love surrounding me kept me going and enabled me to lead a normal life. The sea was his childhood soundtrack, beckoning him closer like a fish to water. He could hear the waves from the bedroom window and wanted to surf more than anything." It was Rebello's dad who encouraged him to try new sports and adventures. Ernesto owned a surf shop and gave Rebello his first surfboard for his 17th birthday. Surfing became an addiction from the first splash, but Rebello lacked technique. After a few failed attempts to surf with family and friends, he signed up for surf school lessons. It's not about sport for him, it's about pushing boundaries to enjoy a full life. Black hole. A satellite image taken with Google Maps went viral and sparked all kinds of speculation because of its appearance, since the geographical features look like a black hole. A social media user spotted the strange black hole in the middle of the Pacific Ocean when they were using Google Maps. The black hole seemed to be situated far away from any other countries or islands. It confused many people online, and lots of different ideas and suggestions were made as to what it could be. Some wondered whether it was an underground volcano, whereas others thought it might be a secret island or a military base. It was learned that its appearance is actually only an optical effect, and it was a bad satellite image of an uninhabited island in the Pacific. It turned out to be a small coral island, which is located nearly 4,000 miles east of Australia. It is Vostok Island, and considered to be the first country in the world to disappear as the sea level rises as a result of global warming. The island has a lot of dense forests made up of trees that have grown tightly together. The trees are dark green but look black from the air, and that's why on Google Maps it looked like a black hole. Ship basketball. Talk about a ferry ride from hell. Not for this person, however. Why not turn an abandoned ship deck into a basketball court? Although we suggest never trying this for yourself, it does make for a killer TikTok video to attempt to shoot some hoops on a rocky sea. This person couldn't just stick to the safety inside the boat's cabin. A ferry is a boat or ship that's used to take people, vehicles, or goods across large bodies of water, such as seas, lakes, and rivers. In many places around the world, ferries are very important for public transport. Some of these places can only be reached by ferry because they have no roads or railways with bridges or tunnels that join them to nearby places, nor do they have any locations at which to land airplanes. But who knew they could also be a perfect place for a game of basketball? Although this ferry daredevil didn't sink any buckets, they certainly entertained a lot of people with this clip. But we can't stress enough that if you ever find yourself in this situation, do your best to listen to staff, follow ship protocol, and leave the b-ball attempts to calmer seas. As you can see, this baller is taking their lives into their own hands. High School Ship. A middle school project made an amazing odyssey spanning 8,300 miles and 462 days, finally landing in the hands of another middle schooler. The New Hampshire Junior High School class project, thought to be lost at sea, was found over a year later, halfway around the world. The nearly 6-foot-long vessel named the Rai Riptides, was crafted by students. Packed with homemade artwork and goodies, it was launched in October of 2020, but after the traveling time capsule's GPS went silent during the journey, the fate of Rai Riptides was anyone's guess. The boat came back online during hurricane season, registering plot points in August and September around the same latitude as Ireland. Then it vanished again. On January 30th, they learned the boat had appeared to hit land just west of a small island in Norway. Then, 462 days after it set sail, the boat was found by a 6th grader on the small Norwegian island of Smola. It had lost its hull and keel on the journey and was covered in barnacles, but the deck and cargo hold were still intact. The sea-battered and barnacle-laden vessel was brought to the students' class, where it was cracked open to reveal its treasure trove of knickknacks. And since then, both classes met virtually to discuss their respective roles in the incredible Rai Riptide Odyssey. Caspian Sea Monster. In 1966, this Soviet plane began transportation to the testing grounds on the Caspian Sea, and it served in the Russian Navy from the late 1980s through the late 1990s. It was discovered by the USA during the Cold War and dragged onto the beach in Durban in July 2020. The colossal piece of machinery is 301 feet and 10 inches long, with a wingspan of 123 feet and weighs over 1 million pounds. It's now known as the Caspian Sea Monster, and as you can see, it's currently beached in the Caspian Sea and taking on water. It's possible the craft may be hammered apart by Mother Nature before it can be repaired and put on display as a museum showpiece as originally intended. It arrived on site before it was discovered there was nowhere to put the aircraft. The craft has reportedly been sitting in the surf ever since, with locals making multiple unsuccessful attempts to haul it into shore by hand. Meanwhile, the secret Soviet-era flying machine is set to become the star attraction in a new tourist site called Patriot Park. The site will include a military museum and theme park displaying an array of Soviet and Russian machinery and equipment. Yonaguni Monument. They call it the Japanese Atlantis. These ruins cover an area spanning 984 feet by 492 feet. It's a series of immense geometric terraces with broad, flat horizontal surfaces and sheer vertical stone risers, known as the Yonaguni Monument. These submerged stone structures lying just below the waters of an island in Japan are actually the ruins of an ancient city sunk by an earthquake about 2,000 years ago. It lies in an earthquake-prone region, so that's likely how these ancient structures ended up in the sea. They're the ruins of a castle, a triumphal arch, 5 temples, and at least 1 large stadium, all of which are connected by roads and water channels. It's clearly a diver's paradise. The sea here is a popular diving location during the winter months. The monument was first discovered in 1986 by a diver searching for a good spot to observe hammerhead sharks. Experts were convinced that the site was carved thousands of years ago when the landmass was above water. Yonaguni is composed of sandstone and mudstone that dates back 20 million years. If the monument was carved by human hands, it was during the last ice age about 10,000 years ago, when Yonaguni was part of a land bridge that connected the site to Taiwan. Dinghy Husband. A Vietnamese man was rescued from an inflatable boat after he was found paddling alone toward India to see his wife. A steersman for a fishing boat reported that a man was seen paddling an inflatable boat miles away from the Somaliland Islands. So, some sailors and marine park rangers traveled to the location and reached the fishing boat not long after. There they found Ho Hung in a rubber boat. The man was found with no map, compass, GPS, or change of clothes, and only a limited amount of water. The 6-foot boat contained a nearly empty water bottle, about 10 packets of instant noodles, and a suitcase. The Vietnamese man told them he was paddling to India to meet his Indian wife in Mumbai. They were married 2 years ago. The man said he arrived at an airport from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. At the airport, he planned to board another flight to India but was unable to obtain a visa. Instead, he took a bus from Bangkok to Phuket and bought the inflatable boat. He launched it with his sights set on paddling his way to India, about 1,200 miles away. Fishermen found him after he had spent 18 nights alone in the sea. Officials brought him to the mainland to arrange for assistance to be reunited with his love. Stranded Sailor. After spending 4 years marooned aboard a cargo ship in Egypt, 2 of those years alone, Mohammed Aisha has been finally allowed to fly home to Syria. He was trapped aboard a cargo ship locked in a legal dispute with Egyptian authorities. According to reports, the ship was detained at the Egyptian port near the Suez Gulf in 2017 because of expired safety equipment and classification certificates. The crew members were repatriated and left the ship in August 2019, but since Aisha had received the detention order while the ship's captain was away from the vessel, he was designated the ship's legal guardian and was told he could not leave. This designation happened without his understanding at the time and without his consent. He spent 2 years as the ship's sole crew member, 4 years in total. I was in a solitary prison and now I'm free, he told the press from his home in Syria. The ship was without power and covered in insects and rodents. The poor man had to swim ashore to charge his phone and get groceries before returning to the ship. He said the nights were spent in complete darkness and silence, and one of the worst parts of his seaborne exile was knowing that a boat carrying his brother, who also works in the industry, passed by multiple times. Frying Pan Tower. A couple decided to ride out Hurricane Matthew on the top of an abandoned Coast Guard station some 34 miles off the coast of North Carolina. Richard Neal, along with his fiancée, are owners of the Frying Pan Tower. Richard purchased the light station from the government after the Coast Guard abandoned it in 2004, saying GPS and radar made the light station obsolete for ships navigating the waters here. The platform is about 100 feet above the ocean and is only reachable by helicopter or boat. This is an interesting way to ride out a storm. Richard Neal grabbed his deck chair and placed it on the roof of the rusty rig in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean before laying back and attempting to relax as the monster storm swirled around him. At one stage, the eye of the hurricane passed directly overhead, and for a short period of time, everything was calm. Richard ended up broadcasting the view of the storm live from his tower on his webcam. Hurricane-force winds led to huge waves battering the rusty and rickety structure. While the 360-degree views of sunsets and sunrises are amazing, there's no land in sight, and the couple rents the tower out as a vacation home, touting the mild weather and world-class fishing as but 2 of the many reasons to rent it. Venom worm. From tapeworms that can infect humans to larger seafaring worms capable of regrowing their entire bodies should they be unlucky enough to get chopped in half, there are about 20,000 species of these bizarre worms, and they're a diverse group, and they're deadly. They're common in every ocean around the world. Flatworms are usually more active when it's dark, when they skim the ground with elegant ruffles of their body edges or even swim short distances in the water. So, to see one like this in the day is a rare sight indeed. Plus, they're very, very flat, and being flat has its advantages. They can get into almost every kind of nook and cranny to get at their food. With no body cavity or specialized respiratory or circulatory organs, flatworms rely on diffusion to acquire their oxygen. Their flattened shape helps allow more nutrients and oxygen to pass through their bodies, and like other marine flatworms, it can propel itself through the water by undulating the edges of its body in a wave-like motion, and they glide around the shores like liquid death. They're ferocious predators, and once they grab hold, it's a wrap. The Ocean Atlas. This beautiful installation in the Bahamas makes a statement. Entitled Ocean Atlas, it encourages coral colonization and deters tourists from endangered reefs. Located off the west coast of Nassau, Ocean Atlas is a contemporary take on the ancient Greek myth of Atlas, a titan condemned to carry the heavens on his back for eternity. Forged from sustainable, pH-neutral materials, designed to kickstart local coral growth, Ocean Atlas is a monumental public sculpture submerged almost 20 feet beneath the sea. Towering 18 feet tall and weighing in at more than 60 tons, reportedly the largest sculpture ever deployed underwater, this statue is a young Bahamian girl sustaining the ceiling of the ocean. Artist, photographer, naturalist, and diver Jason DeCaires Taylor introduced this record-breaking public sculpture to the crystal Bahamian waters in 2014. At low tide, the work reflects a mirror image on the underside of the sea surface, and it's a favorite for divers around the world. And we can see why. Taylor's website explains, our oceans and coral reefs currently collapse from numerous threats, including overfishing, habitat loss, ocean acidification, global warming, and water pollution. And this was his creative response and powerful statement of love toward the ocean. Glass octopus. Before this expedition, there's been limited live footage of the glass octopus. Up till now, scientists had to learn about the animal by studying specimens found in the guts of predators, but an underwater robot filmed it gracefully soaring through the deep waters northeast of Sydney, Australia. This rarely seen glass octopus bared all. During a 34-day journey in a remote corner of the Pacific Ocean, scientists made not one but two sightings of this rare creature, whose only visible features are its optic nerve, eyeballs, and digestive tract. And lucky us, it's some of the only live footage of glass octopuses ever recorded. The biologists aboard the research vessel were conducting high-resolution seafloor mapping of the remote Phoenix Islands when they spotted it. In addition to producing the viral footage of the glass octopus, the researchers conducted a series of experiments while on board the ship, and the footage of the rarely seen, nearly transparent, alien-looking cephalopods made waves across the internet. These octopuses mostly live in the aphotic zone, meaning deep waters where sunlight doesn't reach. At around 3,000 feet, they can grow to about 1.5 feet long and are estimated to live about 2 to 5 years. There you have it. Hands down, these videos are some of the strangest things we've ever seen in the Big Blue Sea. And for sure, there's a lot more where that came from. The ocean is good like that.